everyone. Before we get into this next part of Ready Player 2, just wanted to inform you of a little oopsie, a little uh-oh, that happened during the recording session. I'm not going to parse blame on anybody, it's nobody's fault, but, well, the microphone, while I was recording during one of my sessions, was, not on. I just didn't, flip a little switch, turn it on, didn't do it, oopsie. So, unfortunately, the audio for about an hour and a half of footage is just not good, unusable, trash. So, we've just skipped ahead because I wasn't going to reread it, absolutely not. No. If you're worried that you're missing out on some plot, don't worry. I mean, the plot for Ready Player 2 is pretty thin on the ground, so not much was missed, even in an hour and a half worth of reading. If you do want to know, though, basically what you missed is they discover through the riddle that they need to play a game called Sega Ninja, because it was, a primary developer on it was a woman, and the hero who was demoted to heroine is in reference to the fact that in other copies of that game, the main character was a princess, a female, and when they released it in the States, they changed him to just a generic male ninja. So in order to complete the quest and then get the next shard, they have to play a game called Sega Ninja. The only other thing of note is that another one of the flashbacks happens where Wade goes into the body of Kira Morrow, and it's when she's a little bit older, so naturally he comments on the fact that he has her boobs, lips, and fingertips. And this is from a character that is insisted upon that he has matured. But that's about all you've missed, so without any further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy my continued horror over Ready Player 2. I'm back again, ready for more pig shit. I mean, Ready Player 2. We're on chapter 13. So, let's do this. Wade is playing as Kira Morrow, and he has just bumped into a young Ogden Morrow. But then his socially inept shadow, Halliday, had interrupted them to ask Og for a ride home. He always waited until the last possible moment to return to his troubled home, so Og knew his friend didn't really want to leave yet. Halliday was attempting to cock-block him. But over there it's called Ninja Princess, not Sega Ninja. I felt the corner of my mouth curl into a smirk, then I added, I guess American boys don't like to play with girls. Yes, we do, Og replied immediately. Then he began to turn red and stammered, I mean, we're not against playing games with girls, video games that is, that have a girl main character, like this one here. The teenage Halliday morphed into the masked, black-clad ninja Kazamaru, who, to my eyes, looked exactly like Sho Kosugi in Revenge of the Ninja back in 1983. I glanced down at my avatar and saw that my own appearance had changed too. I still appeared to be a girl, but now I was dressed in a flowing tunic made of red silk, with gold piping and a Chinese dragon stitched onto each sleeve. Do you also have her boobs, lips, and fingertips, Wade? Because it seems like that's important to denote if your avatar is ever female. Reclaim her castle and face the imposter, Shota recited. This is it. Kick his ass, princess. I nodded, then lunged forward did as Shoto instructed. I kicked Kazamaru's ass. What a great description of a fight. And then I was back inside my own avatar skin. I was back on Kodama, standing next to H and Shoto, in front of the Ninja Princess portal. It looked as though my avatar had just been ejected from it. When I looked down, I saw the second shard lying in my open palm. It was another multifaceted blue crystal, nearly identical to the first one in size and appearance. Shoto and H both threw their arms around me. You did it. No, I said, we did it. I couldn't have done it without your help. Recast the foul, restore his ending. Andy's first fate still needs mending. Andy's first fate, Shoto repeated. Wasn't Andy the name of Cary Green's character in The Goonies? No, I said, shaking my head. Her name was spelled with a Y at the end, not an I-E. Yeah, you fucking stupid asshole. Stick to ninjas in Japan stuff, weeb. Andy Walsh, I shouted, with an I-E. That was the name of Molly Ringwald's character in Pretty in Pink. Pretty in Pink would make sense, I said. Kira and Og were both huge John Hughes fans, and they helped code some of the first quests on Shermer. Bravo, team, she said. I can't believe you guys already found the second shard. That was wicked fast. Wicked pissa, kid. Yes, it was, Shoto said, because I held Z's hand all the way through it. While I held his other hand, H added, laughing, and now that Artie has rejoined our posse too, we will be unfucking stoppable. The Siren Soul shall be ours, my friends. Artemis and Shoto both let out a cheer in agreement. Ha ha, yay, cheering. 500 million people are being held hostage. Holy shit, Wade, she muttered. You don't think? I nodded. Anorak doesn't think that the Siren Soul is a magical artifact named after Kira. I said, he believes it is her, an AI copy of Kira, just like Anorak is a copy of Holiday. Besides, James Donovan Halliday was a brilliant video game designer and programmer, but he didn't know anything about women, especially Kira. There's no way he could have convincingly recreated one of her memories from her perspective. He was a self-obsessed sociopath, incapable of feeling empathy for anyone else, especially Kira. That sounds like Ernest. Per Artemis's instruction, I selected a railroad stop on the western edge of town. When we finished rematerializing on the planet's surface, we found ourselves standing on a small train platform in front of a circular red brick station house. There was a crowd of several dozen NPCs standing around us, all 80s-era business suit-clad men and women who were waiting for the morning train. My baby takes the morning train. He works from 9 till 5, and I forget the rest. But I hear that fucking song every day at work, so... That time, we'd arrived inside the Shermer Simulations replica of Chicago's O'Hare Airport, which was almost always snowed in year-round. I've been to O'Hare. It's big. We passed 2 NPCs, a young man and woman, in the midst of a passionate kiss. Across the street from the station, we passed the church, where the wedding from 16 Candles took place. Just beyond it, I spotted a familiar neon billboard that said, "Welcome to Shermer, Illinois, one of America's towns." A few were shot in L.A., like Pretty in Pink, though its story was set in suburban... God, I keep adding shuz to suz. Artemis glanced over and caught me staring at her like a slack-jawed goon. To my surprise, she didn't look away. She gave me what can only be described as a warm smile. Then she stopped singing and checked her swatch. Don't you hate it when you see a character with a bunch of red flags and another character just falls for them and you're like, girl, no, come on, you can do better than this. It occurred to me that there must be at least 2 different Anthony Michael Halls living on this street, possibly 3, if Farmer Ted's house was around here too. And on top of that, there was Gary Wallace, Anthony Michael Hall's character in Weird Science. But it was a safe bet that he lived on the other side of the tracks because his father, Al, was a plumber. Just then, 2 freshman nerds in the seat directly in front of me and Shoto. How dare he call anyone a nerd? I can't watch it without rage quitting now, but 16 Candles was one of my mom's favorite movies. She loved all of Hughes' films. Again, another favorite of someone else. Artemis snapped her fingers, and her avatar's attire changed once again. Now she wore Annie Potts' black latex outfit from her first scene in Pretty in Pink, along with her punk rock, porcupine hairdo, dangling earrings, and dinner fork bracelet. She motioned for us to put them on. When we complied, the clothing on each of our avatars abruptly changed, so that the 3 of us were dressed like the Dork Squad in 16 Candles. I was now the Geek, played by Anthony Michael Hall. H was John Cusack's character Bryce, and Shoto was their pal Cliff. This place is a lot more dangerous than it looks. Don't touch anything, don't talk to anyone, just follow my lead. We each removed our sunglasses and resumed our normal appearance. Then we followed Artemis up the steps that led to the front entrance. Again, if you're just going to take off the glasses and lose the cosplay, why waste the time? Again, it's just overworded nothing. One of them bumped into me as she went by, and when she turned to say, "Excuse me," I saw that it was a young Juliette Lewis, with her hair done up in frizzy blonde 80s perm. I knew her best from her starring roles in Strange Days and From Dusk Till Dawn, so it took me a moment to remember that she portrayed Audrey Griswold in Christmas Vacation. Artemis was right. For someone who had trained themselves to identify pop culture icons from the 70s and 80s, this world was one huge distraction. We watched as Andy closed her locker and began to walk down the hall, Ducky buzzing around behind her like an insect. I recited the clue printed on the second shard again in my head, trying to figure out why Artemis had brought us here. Then I groaned and rolled my eyes. "You've got to be kidding me," I said. "The first line of the clue is a goddamn pun." Recast the foul, meaning a foul, like a waterfowl. Ladies, we heard him say. Listen, I may be able to work out a deal where either one or the both of you could be pregnant by the holidays. What do you... Before the duck man was able to finish his sentence, Artemis ran over to him and swung her sword, lopping his head off at the neck. Annoying dipshit, she said as she wiped Ducky's blood off her blade and slid it back into its scabbard. I never liked him, or the generations of spineless toolbags who've rooted for Andy to end up with him. Artie held up a bag of weed in her left hand and Ducky's shoes in her right. We've got the magic herb and the magic slippers, Artemis said. Now it's time for us to hit the city, baby. Dead on. We have some drinks, a little nightlife, some dancing. Let's go. Max and Ian, the two assholes who dump Icy on Gary and Wyatt in Weird Science, why the hell do we need them? So that we can get the third shard, Z, she replied in the tone of someone explaining something obvious to a very small child. Just trust me, okay? That'll save us a lot of time. This is insane. There's just a lot of screaming going on outside. Sir, I'm the one who should be screaming. Artemis turned her attention back to Ian. She removed the bag of weed she'd taken from Bender's locker and dangled it in front of him. The expression on his face suddenly went blank, as if he'd been hypnotized. Would you like some of this? Artemis asked. Why, yes, madam, Ian replied. I certainly would. He reached for the bag, but she yanked it back out of his reach. I'll make you a deal, Artemis said. I'll give you this whole bag of doobage. I recited the inscription again, this time from memory. Recast the foul, restore his ending. Andy's first fate still needs mending. So that was Andy's first fate, I said, to wind up with RDJ as Ducky, and the only way to mend that fate was to recast the foul. I smiled at Artemis and shook my head. Artie, you're a genius. I gave her a round of applause and she took a small bow. Then she grabbed, hello dog, the dog's here, I'm petting the dog. You're better than Ready Player 2, pupper. Yeah, you're gonna scratch yourself right now? Alright, cool. Do you want me to read this to you? This book's a bunch of crap, though. There are 5 different John Candy NPCs wandering around Shermer, she said. Can you name all of them? Sure, I said. Del Griffith, of course. Then there's Chet Ripley, C.D. Marsh, and Gus Polinski, the Polka King of the Midwest. Oh, and I saw Buck Russell this morning. She grinned at me, impressed. Not bad, Watts, she said, still as sharp as a tack. As we continued to drive, I stole a glance over it in the driver's seat. The top was down and the wind was in her hair. She looked beautiful and happy, and I was still madly in love with her, no matter how much I denied it. Yeah, millions of people's lives are at stake? Out of nowhere, another needle drop triggered and a new song began to play. More Than a Feeling by Boston. Good song. Then I heard her laugh. What's so funny, I asked. That song, she replied. It starts to play whenever one avatar stares at another avatar for longer than 5 seconds, while also experiencing a drastic increase in their heart rate. It's a little Easter egg they added for Oni users last year. Before I knew what the hell was happening, she grabbed my face and planted a kiss on me. She wasn't wearing an Oni headset, so I knew she didn't feel that kiss, but I did. Then she turned to RDJ. Don't go anywhere, she told him. We'll be right back. Then she grabbed me by the arm and pulled me back in the direction of the car. We continue with Chapter 17. We're about 209 pages in out of 366. So the end is nigh. Well, we're not selling anything, Mrs. Johnson, Artemis said. My name is Artemis, and this is my friend Parzival. We're here to speak with your husband about our mutual friend, Ducky, Philip F. Dale. Mrs. Johnson's scowl vanished, and she gave Artemis a huge smile. In the next moment, her face melted and morphed, and she transformed into a completely different woman. Now the NPC in front of us was a slender woman with long blonde hair and a warm, friendly smile. I didn't recognize her at all, but Artemis did, instantly. Mrs. Hughes, she said, lowering her eyes and bowing her head, as if she'd just encountered royalty. Then she glanced sideways at me and whispered, Nancy Hughes! I've never seen her here before. I didn't even know you could. Like, the licensing, I think I've said this before in this read-through, but the licensing in this fucking game, there's so much, like, illegal shit. Like, just imagine now. Like, there's shit going on now where Naughty Dog gets shit every day for The Last of Us 2, for Ellie looking like Elliot Page. And, like, that, there's a big to-do about that. And in this game, everybody you've ever known exists. Like, there's a video game containing a bunch of people who probably have not okayed their likenesses being used, nor have their estates. Then, to our shock, he went in for a hug. Artemis laughed and hugged John Hughes back, while giving me a "can you believe this is happening" look over his shoulder. Then he let go of her and turned to me. A nerd used this computer to create a simulation of his dream girl, I said. Maybe Aug is trying to tell us that Halliday did the same thing. That's why he knocked out these 4 keys, K, I, R, and A. Holy shit, Artemis said.
Kira. Artemis gave me a dubious look and folded her arms. A friend? She repeated. What friend? Was that a hint of jealousy in her voice? The fact that the fucker has another friend? Like, you guys are done. You guys are done. Artemis, get over this. Girl, please. Please. Like, why is she being written as such a nag? And, like, he's also writing her to be completely jealous. Like, he hasn't said girlfriend. He hasn't said I got a new side piece. He's just like, I'm messaging a friend for help. And she's just like, friends? You don't have friends? How do I know this friend? Ducky took Andy in his arms, and the two of them began to dance, spinning around and around together until they merged into a single, whirling blur of pink. Then that pink blur vanished in a brilliant flash of neon pink light. When my eyes recovered, I saw the third shard floating in the air above the center of the dance floor, where the two star-crossed lovers had stood a second earlier. Artemis ran over and tried to grab the shard, but her hands passed right through. She laughed and turned back to me, then made a come-hither motion with her index finger. I joined her on the dance floor. For each fragment, my heir must pay a toll, I recited, as I reached out and wrapped my fingers around the shard. As before, taking the shard triggered another flashback, and it gave me a sense of just how profoundly Kira had loved him. Samantha's smile still gave me the exact same sensation, a sensation best described as devastation. Once again, I knew it immediately. I, of course, knew. This book is so fucking cockily written. Is that a word? Cockily? He's very cocky. He's a cock. Dog, are you fucking for real right now? Thank you. Bless you. I decorated the interior so that it resembled the treehouse where Chewbacca's family lived on Kashyyyk in the Star Wars Holiday Special. H noticed this a few seconds after we arrived and chuckled. Then she let out a long Wookiee growl of recognition. I didn't laugh. I was too busy teetering on the verge of an emotional breakdown. You could watch shows from a huge free library of old children's educational programming from the late 20th century. Shows like 321 Contact, The Big Comfy Couch, Captain Kangaroo, The Electric Company, The Great Space Coaster, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Romper Room, Reading Rainbow, Sesame Street, Zoobly Zoo, and many, many more. Kira and Og had used their vast fortunes to purchase the rights to these long-forgotten shows, then uploaded all of them to the free video archive here on Halcydonia, where future generations of kids could keep enjoying and learning from them forever. Not PJ Masks? Not Paw Patrol? Only the shit from the 80s was available? They also recreated sets from all of these old educational shows as virtual Oasis environments, and all of their characters as lifelike NPCs. That becomes less impressive every single time it's mentioned. Like, oh, they took their favorite films and turned them into worlds in their video game. They're doing that for everything. Like, everything is a world in that. Like, I just imagine the Oasis as having... It has... I could pick a random movie or a random game. Like, let me see. How about... What's a non-obvious one? Fragile Dreams. Farewell Ruins of the Moon. I bet you Fragile Dreams Farewell Ruins of the Moon for the Wii, for the Nintendo Wii, I bet you that has a world in the Oasis, but Ernest doesn't know about that game, so he wouldn't mention it. These backpacks couldn't be added to your avatar's inventory, and the items inside were only useful on this planet, so everyone left them in storage lockers or in their bee-free treehouse, like me. My mother's identical backpack was hanging right beside it. I tried to avoid looking at it, but then I went right ahead and looked at it anyway, including the words stitched onto the back flap in cursive with pink yarn, Mama. I hit the emotion-suppressing software on my HUD so Artemis wouldn't see me start to sob. I managed to keep moving. I put my own backpack on my avatar's back. As I did, it automatically enlarged itself to fit my 21-year-old frame. There's no way this fucker is 21. Samantha knew all about my mother, and how I found her dead of a drug overdose on her couch when I was 11. It was heroin, mixed with some other stuff, I think. That was the reason I'd avoided all Oni recordings made by heroin users. For the entire first year, the Oni net was online. Then curiosity finally got the best of me, and I went all the way down the Oni net heroin addict high rabbit hole. What the fuck? I wanted to experience what my mother had experienced firsthand, to find out exactly the sort of high my mother had been chasing when she'd unwittingly overdosed. Once we were all inside the gate, I took off at a run, leading my friends through the city's tangled maze of streets. As we were making our way down a cobblestone side street, I spotted something strange and completely out of place. a gorgeous cream-colored 1949 Buick Roadmaster convertible that I instantly recognized from Rain Man. "Can you help me find it, Your Majesty?" Her eyes widened in surprise. She looked utterly delighted. "Indeed I can, dear boy," she replied. "The shard was given to me for safekeeping a long time ago. I wondered if anybody would ever show up here looking for it, and now here you are at long last. But before I can give it to you, you'll need to earn all 50 Halcydonia Wear It merit badges. How long is that going to take?" "Relax," I said. "I spent years here earning all those badges, with a lot of help from my mom." I opened my avatar's inventory and dug around until I found my old Halcydonia Wear It merit badge sash. When my eyes recovered, I saw that my sash had vanished from the queen's hand. Now she was holding the 4th shard. Wow, that was quick. Like, it took us fucking 7 chapters to replace John Cryer with Robert Downey Jr. in Pretty in Pink, but it takes us a chapter to beat Sega Ninja and a chapter to go to the childhood fucking game world and just say, "Don't worry, I completed it when I was a little kid. Give me the fucking shit, I'm already done." Together, these shapes formed a symbol that was instantly recognizable to any student of late 20th century popular culture and to any true fan of rock or funk music. Prince. "We're in luck, guys," she said, still dancing in place. "My dad left me his entire collection of Prince music and films when he moved out. I grew up listening to them and watching them. I probably know more about Prince and his artistic output than any other human being in history. How fucking fortunate that every single one of these quests has been in relation to shit they already know or shit they've already done. Like, this is the worst book. This is so bad. It's in Sector 7, located right next to Beyonce, Madonna, and Springsteen in the Superstar Cluster. They're just named after them. These people's planet names are so fucking bad. They're just straight up the thing that they are. Like, oh, all of John Hughes' films took place in Shermer, Illinois. Well, the planet is called Shermer. Like, all of Miyazaki's films are on the planet Miyazaki. All of Prince's work is on the undefinable symbol, but the planets that are in that same cluster are Beyonce, Madonna, and Springsteen. It's so fucking weak, and it's a lack of creativity too, which doesn't shock me because this entire series is based off of one man's lack of creativity, and that the only way he can write a story is to do one that is just front-loaded with references to other things he's seen, or, in the case of Armada, pastiches of other movies he's already seen. "We just got a group text from Faisal," I said, "saying he needs to see us right away. He wants us back in the conference room on Gregarious so Anorak can't eavesdrop." "Sorry, H," Artemis said, resting a hand on her shoulder. "It looks like we need to make a quick pit stop before we head to the afterworld." "Okay," she said, "but Faisal better make it quick." "Yeah," Shoto said, "and this time he better have some good news for us." Before I could say how unlikely I thought that was, H used her admin ring to teleport us directly back to the conference room on Gregarious. Sure enough, as soon as we took our seats, Faisal told us he had even more bad news to share. But as he began to relay it, it quickly became clear that bad wasn't a strong enough adjective, and that downright apocalyptic would have been far more accurate. We saw surfers, sidekicks, shopkeepers, pit mechanics, butlers, maids, background citizens, and wise old mentors all going postal on hundreds of different Oasis worlds. Taken as a whole, this footage made it look like the Oasis had suddenly turned into a nightmarish mashup of Westworld, Future World, and Jurassic World. That was terrible. With a smattering of Imagination Land, Tomorrowland, and Zombieland all mixed in for good measure. That is the worst sentence in this book. That's terrible. "Okay," Artemis said slowly. "Then what happens to the user when their avatar gets killed?" "Nothing happens," Faisal said. "Their avatar doesn't respawn inside the Oasis, and they don't wake up in the real world either, but their Oni headset stays powered on and locked onto their skull. The user's brain patterns indicate they're still logged into the Oasis," he shrugged. "They all appear to be trapped in limbo." "Jesus," Artemis muttered. "Can they feel anything? What are they experiencing?" Faisal shook his head. "We don't know," he replied with a shaky voice. "We have no way of finding out what the users themselves are actually experiencing." H cleared her throat. I cleared my throat. Yeah, all of this stuff was just like so easy to crack into that we can make it so that users don't respawn. Users can't respawn. They can't log out. It's just poorly designed. That's why you don't pay for anything that's still in early access. I nodded. When Og collected the first 3 shots for Anorak, I said, I think he only did it so that he could leave behind some clues of his own. I'm hoping they'll lead us to him. I pulled up the screenshot I'd taken on the Ninja Princess high score list, the one with Og's score in first place, and threw it up on the conference room's main view screen. Those first 3 numbers, Artemis said, aren't they part of the street address of your house? I stared at her, puzzled, and shook my head. No, I said. My street address is 2112 Montsalvat Boulevard. She smirked. The original address, back when Halliday lived there, he said, before you moved in and had it changed. 550 Babbitt Road, I shouted. Babbitt, spelled just like the last name of the 2 brothers in Rain Man, played by Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. Halliday and Morrow both bought mansions located on Babbitt Road, just a few miles apart, Faisal said. Og moved out of his residence at 750 Babbitt Road when he got married, but he never sold the property. I pulled up an aerial satellite view of the building. All it showed was the roof of a large mansion, with a garage and a few other small buildings clustered around it, surrounded on all sides by empty, wide-open farm fields. Hiding Og here would be a pretty clever move, actually. It's definitely the last place I would have ever thought to look for him. Faisal nodded. That house still has a... But why would you do... Why not hide him in a fucking dumpster? Like, why are they hiding him in a place that could be easily deciphered with clues? Anorak couldn't just take over the internet, hop on Zillow, and buy himself a fucking spot? Less than a minute later, the conference room doors flew open, and in walked Lohengrin, followed by Rizzo, Wukong, Lilith, and Castigar. They were all staring around wide-eyed, taking in their surroundings. But when they saw me, H, Shoto, and Artemis, their eyes grew even wider. Then in unison, all 5 of them dropped to their knees and bowed their heads. I told them to rise, and we all ran over to greet them. And that was how the high 5 met the low 5 for the very first time under extremely dire circumstances. And that's where I'm going to stop, because doing this hurts my eyes and my voice and my soul.